Consistent self-improvement, everybody. You are now listening to American gypC podcast. I am your host, Classic, and I'm here with my co-host,
gypC. And today we have Colin Thompson. He is the founder and principal coach at Oligye Life Coaching. You might remember him from episode 40, where we covered blockchain, crypto, and NFT. And today we're talking about mental fitness and positive intelligence. Welcome back to the show, Collins.
Yeah, so gypC Classic, thanks for having me back. Very much on a different topic today from blockchain, very far from blockchain today, right? But thanks for having me back, because one of the things that I love talking about is our need to build up and develop our mental fitness. And I'll define that later, but great to be back on your podcast.
It's a pleasure having you back.
And for the listeners, can you tell us where you are located currently?
So I am in the land of lockdown. I am in Shanghai, China, which is typically a very vibrant, bustling, active city. For the past almost 2 months, we've been on lockdown or some level of lockdown, COVID restrictions. So Shanghai, China, we are going through, I want to say, month number 2 of being within restrictions, limiting our movement. But everything is fine. The family is fine. 2 kids here and my wife, everybody's fine. And we're now able to walk around outside, so we can get some sunshine each day. So yeah, not too bad here in China.
So you said you can't leave the house for a while, because I think I was following another person as well that does like daily reports. And so when you can't leave your home, like how do you get groceries and stuff? Do you order that in, or how does that work?
Yeah, so there are different levels, right? So if we go back to early March or prior to lockdown, you can get anything delivered here, right? Pick up use the app, literally anything delivered. So delivery was a very common thing we did. However, once we went on restrictions where we couldn't travel too far away, we were still able to get deliveries, but it may take longer. If it was a half hour before, then it became 2 hours. But what happened was, when the city went on lockdown, meaning the entire city couldn't leave their home, what happened was delivery people were where? At home also.
Yeah.
So getting deliveries was much more difficult. They had to get passes to be able to deliver food. And what happened was delivery people became, I guess you can call them urgent workers. I've got the terminology, but they became necessary. So they were allowed to leave their houses and go deliver. But if you think about it, what had to happen was we went from individual deliveries to group deliveries. So for example, my entire building has 9 floors, 2 apartments, so 18 apartments, maybe 40 people total. We have to do group orders, right? Because what that does is it cuts down the need for more delivery people. So you can do group buying, whether it's in your building or your compound. So you could not do individual deliveries, but you can do a major delivery. So for example, instead of one delivery driver bringing 1 order, that driver is now bringing, maybe $500 worth of orders in 1 delivery, because that was the only way for them to really have enough delivery drivers to deliver food. So we can still get deliveries. And now things are opening up a little bit more. You can now get more individual deliveries again.
How's it been working from home?
For me, it's been great, because previous to lockdown, I still worked from home the majority of the time. One of the things that we did, myself and other life coaches did, we decided to volunteer our time to coach people who are having a tough time going through anxiety, frustration, the fear of the unknown. Because right now, on a daily basis, the policies were changing. If you caught COVID or tested positive, you're taken from your home to move to a quarantine place. And that's typically a place that has poor standards, right? And perhaps separate from your kids. So people were very, very nervous about getting COVID. So for myself and other coaches, it's been good, because we're able to do more volunteer coaching and helping people who are going through a tough time. And this brings us to that topic of mental fitness. So people are very familiar with physical fitness, right? So physical fitness says, if you want to run a 10K and you've never trained, right? You try to run, well, not to say 10K, if you want to run 5 miles and have never trained for it, it's going to be very tough 5 miles, right? Your legs are going to burn, your chest is going to burn, because their physical fitness isn't as tough. It's the same thing as we go through life ups and downs. If we haven't built up our mental fitness, right, then the same thing happens. We're not able to make it through life's ups and downs. And one of the things that we're trying to help people do now is to slowly build up their mental fitness to be able to handle what they're going through during lockdown, because a lot of people have really been taken to a place of despair, taken to a place of fear, taken to a place of anxiety during these last 2 months. And the thing about it is, you don't know when things are going to change. So right now, my wife and I, we said we're on a rolling 2 weeks expectations. Our expectation is we're going to be on lockdown for at least 2 more weeks, right? And we always say that. So we're not disappointed when the next day comes and we can't go outside. We just say that's part of the process, and let's not get frustrated, but just deal with what's taking place today.
In the moment.
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
to go back a little bit, how did you first get into life coaching?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've always been very big on motivation and motivational speaking. And I sort of back into it. When I was in high school, well, I'm the youngest of 6 kids. So what that means is, growing up, I always played sports, and they were always better than me. But I always competed against my older siblings, which meant that when I went to play for a team, I was pretty good because I had so much practice. And in high school, that's my first time being put in sort of a leadership position as captain of the football team and wrestling team. It was go out there and motivate your team. In football, it's very easy because you have so many people there, other folks can motivate. But in wrestling, it's different. Wrestling is one-on-one. So wrestling is, how do you motivate your teammate who got beat the last 5 matches to go out there and give his all? So that was my first time being in a role where I had to motivate people, motivate, get you hyped up. So for some reason, I was good at it and I liked it. Went to college, sort of the same thing in college, but flash forward to 2000, and it's a big flash forward actually, 2000, and I want to say 2012, I was working here in Shanghai with IBM, and they knew internally that I was very big on sports, very big on motivation, very energetic guy. And they asked me, to Colin, would you like to volunteer to be a coach? And I said, I don't know what coaching is. Quite frankly, I didn't believe in coaching back then, but I said, okay, if you want me to try it, I'll do it. And they took me through about 6 months of training on how to be an internal coach for leaders and managers. And I'll tell you what I noticed. You know, classic, if I motivate you today, where I am here, it is Saturday morning, where you are, it's Friday evening. If I motivate you today, I guarantee you, you will run through a wall tomorrow, but maybe not on Sunday. Definitely not on Monday, because motivation doesn't last too long. A lot of times you must get motivated again and again and again. And people call me, say, Colin, motivate me. And they call me back again a few months later, do it again, Colin. And I was like, wow, this is not sustainable. But with coaching, to me, coaching was the last piece, because coaching was, I'm not only going to motivate you, but I'm going to coach you through reaching your goal. So in 2012, I really saw the other side on how powerful coaching can be, because coaching, you stay with your client from where they are now and you help them reach a goal. And most of us have goals that change our lives. So I was very moved by learning this new skill. So in 2018, I was fortunate enough to leave IBM and open my own coaching, training, and consulting business. And I've been doing that for the last 4 years.
Okay. Is there any certifications or anything that come with life coaching?
Absolutely. Well, you don't have to have a certification. And one of the things I thought about when I first went to life coaching is, do I want to just coach, or do I want to have a certification? And one thing I've learned here in China, right, is very interesting. People here get certifications to have a certification, okay? And let me not say in China, this is in a lot of different countries. People get certifications just to have those credentials, but not to learn. So one thing I told myself early, I'm not going to do any certification just to say I've achieved it. I want to learn. So I made sure I went through a 26-week program, 26-week program that helped me be able to be a good coach. And most coaches go through some sort of certification program. So, you know, the International Coaching Federation, which is a global probably the biggest global certification program for coaches. I am a member of ICF, but I think it's important, again, that coaches go through some sort of certification program. Now, therapists are different. Legally, they must go through a qualified program that allows them to be legally able to be a therapist or a psychologist. But for coaching, you don't have to. But most coaches who really want to effect change do go through a certification program.
Okay. So I guess asking, what does that what is the certification like? What is the process usually like when doing that? What is some of the things that they share with?
Yeah, well, I can tell you one of the biggest differences between certified coaches and I'm going to say wannabe coaches, because there are a lot of wannabe coaches out there. And people who I meet and they say, Colin, I want to be a coach because people tell me I give great advice, right? You give me your challenges, I can help you, I can give you advice and help you figure out what you should do. And one of the things about coaches is we don't give advice. We don't give any advice whatsoever. It's very rare that we tell a client what they should do, or we give clients advice on what they should do. So as you go into the program teaches you how to be a very powerful listener, how to listen actively, right? How to ask very powerful questions. For example, if I want to help guide you somewhere, I'm not going to ask you a closed question. I'm not going to say, are you happy about that? Because the answer could be yes or no. But I will ask you, well, that's very interesting. What was it about that made you happy? Or what was it about that didn't make you happy, right? So you're able to share more in your answer because we want to create an environment where our client can freely speak, a very confidential, very trusting, very open environment. But we also want to make sure that we're asking those powerful questions that make them get an aha moment. An aha moment is when a client shares something and a light bulb goes off. I just realized hearing myself say something that boom, 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 right? That's what we want to do. We want to help the client find their way, right? I think it says, right, self, right? We want the client to find their way. We're just here helping them to guide them. So the program teaches how to do that, how to sort of make sure the client isn't dependent on you. The client must be dependent upon themselves.
Okay.
So I want to talk about positive intelligence because you sent over this assessment and I actually went ahead and took that assessment. But before we get into that, can you explain that a little bit? Positive intelligence.
Yeah. So positive intelligence is really about our ability to maintain a positive mindset. So we talk about mental fitness, and mental fitness is the same thing. Our ability to deal with life and maintain a positive level of emotions as opposed to a negative level of emotions. So positive intelligence is just knowing how to stay positive. We all go through different experiences in life, and it's upon us to decide how we're going to react to it. We want to have what we call a sage mindset. So a sage mindset meaning we always want to look at everything we experience as a gift. Even if it's, it seems really, really bad, everything we experience can be a gift. So can we experience life and have that positive mindset consistently? The answer is no. Right? No, we cannot. We want to, but until we build up our mental fitness, we can't do that. So your mental fitness is the same as going to a gym. When you go to a gym, the first day you go to a gym, you're not going to be able to bench press 200 pounds. Maybe 100, right? But you do that 100, and then a few weeks later, add weight. So when you develop your mental fitness, it's the same thing. If you have, if you and your spouse or your family or friends, or you have a major life experience that brings you a lot of negativity, perhaps don't try to say, what is the gift in this? I mean, positive. Start with something small. Start with a pet peeve, right? something small, and build up your mental fitness. Practice not getting upset over little things. And the more you're able to build up your mental fitness, you can then handle the bigger issues. So part of what we do in positive intelligence is we help people develop their mental fitness. Start with, for example, my wife, I don't know why. My wife leaves the microwave door open all the time, which may not seem like a big thing, right? But to me, it just makes no sense because the light is on, right? So to me, it's like leaving the light on somewhere. Why don't you just close it, right? And for a long time, every time I see it, right? Again, it may seem like something small, but for me, it was a pet peeve. And I told myself, okay, Colin, start here. Don't let this get you upset anymore. So I tell myself, I'm going to turn a corner and go to the kitchen. No matter what I see, don't get upset. And it took me a while, right? But I found that once I said, you know what? I don't think she's doing it just to get me upset, right? So now there was no blame there. Perhaps she's just forgetting it. I don't know why she's doing it, but it's not doing it to get me upset. When I turn a corner and I see it open, what I do now is I close it and keep it going, right? I close it. So starting here, and once I was able to do that and not get upset, I'm then able to work on something else that bothers me and not let that get me upset either. So starting something small and not letting it trigger me, right? We get triggered so easy sometimes, right? But not letting it trigger me and using that to help me build up my mental fitness so I can handle a bigger and bigger issue. So we always try to help people, tell people, start small, right? What's something that gets you a little bit upset that you can really start focusing on how to be a sage in that moment. And for me, the gift in that, right? Because again, everything can be a gift. The gift in that was me saying, wow, this is something that was silly, that was getting me upset, and now it's not. I've just developed a new skill, right? I've just developed the ability to not get upset with things that used to get me upset. So trying to find the gift in every situation. It's not easy to do, right? But it's possible.
Yeah, it's weird to sit and think about it, like how you brought up the microwave situation, but you just can't figure it out. And I guess I'm the kind of person when I think about my relationship with the microwave, it's the sound. It's the sound of it closing that probably bothers her probably the most, because if it's closed, the sound of it opening is one sound. You put in your food and then you have to close it, and then you press the timer and then it cooks, and then you press it again to open it and the sound of it opens, and you have to pull it in again, and then you have to close it and you hear the sound again. But if it's always open, you open it, put it in, boom, one time, do your time.
Yeah.
Okay,
like
it cooks and then it opens and you leave it open, and you only hear that close sound
right.
every time you use it instead of 4 times.
That could be it. I'll tell you something I've learned. For me, right? I've learned, don't even try to identify why.
Yeah.
Right? Why doesn't matter? Why doesn't matter, right?
Just give everyone their personal reason, their respectful reason. Yeah. If it's something that's like a personal annoying thing, everyone, respectfully, everyone has that one thing. It's not saying something necessarily wrong with it. It's just, but I've, that's the first time, I think but I could say probably as a child, probably left the microwave open a lot.
Not as a child, yes, not as a grown
Yeah.
So I got a chance to take the assessment, but I have no idea how to actually interpret. Like, I get the idea of the self-sabotage, right? And I guess I'm trying to understand it. Is it helping you figure out what type of self-sabotage happening?
Right. So let me give some background. So we all have ways of sabotaging ourselves, our mindset, right? So there are 10 saboteurs. There's one that's the major saboteur that everybody has. That's a judge, right? We judge ourselves, we judge other people, and we judge the environment. If we make a mistake, we'll say, you know what? Oh man, you messed up again. You're not smart enough for this. You're not fast enough. You're not good enough. That's how we judge ourselves. And imagine having a little gypsy, a little version of you on your shoulder,
Mhm.
negative stuff all day. You know what? You're not smart enough. They're better than you. Yada yada yada. Just telling you all this negative stuff. It affects how you think about yourself. That's how you judge yourself. We also judge other people by saying they're not smart enough, they're not good enough. Why did they do that? Why did they make that mistake? Why are they wearing that shirt? That's stupid. Why are they doing it? We judge people so quickly, right? Why are they not walking in the escalator? Why are they stopping, right? So many different ways we judge other people, and we judge the environment also. We judge, for example, I know a lot of people here in Shanghai are judging the way the city is being run right now during lockdown. So a lot of judgment. And the judge is a saboteur that really impacts how we live. Because again, judging yourself, others, and the environment. But then we have 9 what we call accomplice saboteurs, right? And these are the saboteurs that also talk to us, but they're more specific. So gypsy, what were your top 2 or 3 saboteurs from that
Yeah,
assessment?
I can actually go ahead and let's see. Let's see here.
And this is a major part of positive intelligence, because you need to really be able to identify your saboteurs so you can start to attack them. Okay, the stickler, the pleaser, and hyper vigilant, hyper rational, hyper achiever. And let me first say that all of the saboteurs come from a very, very positive place, right? The challenge is, though, when we go too far in that saboteur strength. So for example, the stickler says that things must be done in a certain way. And they must be done in a certain way each and every time. Now, that comes from, and people will say that, you know what, I'm a stickler, but that help me get to where I am. I'm a success because I worry about all the details. But is that really, really true? You know, so sticklers sometimes are so into things being perfect that it impacts how they interact with others. So for this one, do you believe you have a stickler within you?
Yeah. How you just explained it, yeah, I think yeah.
And what's been the impact? So how did that stickler impact you? How does it manifest itself within you?
Just wanting things to get done a certain way, like you were saying. Yeah, it's like,
Programming and
well,
your
it's somewhat of a being, I guess, a perfectionist in a way, and then wanting things to go a certain way and having a certain expectation and wanting things to go as expected. And when it doesn't, sometimes that can affect you a lot more than maybe other people that are not sticklers and they don't need for things to go exactly as
Right.
expected.
Right. And sometimes as you mentioned, an expectation of how things should be done, right? And sometimes that expectation is put on other people as well, right? Especially if you guys are working together, we want things to be done a certain way. So that's a stickler. And again, some folks will say, you know what? I'm a success because I'm a stickler. Sticklers get things done, right? Sticklers have a method of how to get things done. That's true, but do you need to have those traits to get things done, right? So you also have the pleaser here. And the pleaser, I think a lot of people can resonate with the pleaser. So before I define this, what do you think the pleaser means?
I would think like a people pleaser in a way. Like if probably you're in a crowd, you kind of want everything or everyone to be happy or
Yes, yeah. And let me
want peace.
this is a very interesting one, because a lot of people know pleasers, and pleasers come from, again, from a very, very good place. Pleasers want people to be happy. They don't want people to go through any sort of pain or discomfort, and they want the environment to be smooth. The challenge is, though, that I'm not saying this is how you are, but a lot of pleasers are trying to make people happy so they get the people's affection, not because they want people to really truly be happy. They're doing it because they want people to say, you know what, this person is so nice, they're so caring, let me care about them and be nice to them. So they're trying to get their affection by pleasing them. What happens though, a lot of time with pleasers, they're so busy pleasing other people, they don't let people know how to please themselves, right? So pleasers often feel empty, they feel alone, they feel like people are not returning the kindness and goodness that I'm giving them, right? So have you felt any of that?
Yes.
Yeah, I do.
And Clarence said, yeah. So Clarence, explain your answer.
Well, we've basically, even dealing with music, I've she supported me a lot with music and even with the podcast thing sometime. And just a couple of just being supportive on social media. You know, it's a world of its own.
Right, right.
She, you know, kind of, we put out a lot of love. You know, it's pretty easy for us to like or love, and just, you know, whether it's on there, and it's not quite the same when, you know, promoting your own thing as a creator. And I'm sure a lot of creators feel that way, you know, and they probably have that pleaser thing because you want to please your audience, you want to please your
Right.
fans. So, you know, sometime when you really put out a lot of, you know, networking or love and just, you know, and it doesn't come back the same, yeah, it bothers, or it drains you a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting because social media, you see this a lot. If we go back 10 years, it was more direct interaction, right? Hey, good to see you. I like you, I care about you. What do you need? Let me get it for you, let me help you. But now on social media, it's about giving a like, or not even just a like, but even writing a few words about something, right? And people do that, and they're doing it. One, I want to be seen as being supportive, right? I want somebody to see that I'm giving a thumbs up, I'm giving a like. I want people to notice that. And I'm hoping that they'll say thank you. I'm hoping that they'll say, hey, thanks for your comments. And when it doesn't happen, right? When they come back an hour later and go back to that thread and see nobody said thank you, it's draining, right? It's draining. And people really are being put into a terrible space through social media, and the fact that they're liking things all day. And as you mentioned, they're not getting any sort of support back.
Right. And they use it as a form of, you know, supposedly networking you to engage with other people and, you know, comment here and comment there. And, you know, sometimes it works, but a lot of times it's not necessarily for a lot of creators who are looking to, you know,
Right.
build, to network and things like that. It's tough. It's just a little tough, you know, tougher.
Yeah.
But it's not
do
just
that.
even in social media, which it happens a lot in social media, but now that is such a big part of society now that is driving behavior outside of social media in real life. Even when I was doing like photography, and you offer like so much like free photography and things like that to network, but sometimes, you know, it doesn't matter the situation. It's just a lot of times I do tend to give out a lot of myself,
A
and
lot of
then
positive
sometimes
energy.
I feel a little bit drained when it doesn't
Right.
necessarily feel like it's, you know, coming back.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll tell you, if you're doing it for networking, that's more purposeful, right? And that makes sense, because networking is something you have to do in your business. But when you're doing it to get affection, right, that's different. So it's sort of like saying, you know what, I want to help you achieve something, not because I want you to achieve it,
Mm.
but I want you to like me, which is totally different. So a lot
Yeah.
of times people please because they want people to like them. And that's not sustainable. That's not going to put you into, because you now have these expectations on somebody else who doesn't know about these expectations, right? And please, gypC, you mentioned that, you know, you have a pleaser in you. How often do you tell people how to please you?
Not often.
Right, right. And that's what happens. They're so busy trying to give, that they don't take time to let people know how they can actually help them. I have a good friend here in Shanghai, and he is a major pleaser. And one of the things he will not do, he will not let you help him. And I told him, I said, look, man, stop doing all these things for me if I can't do anything for you. And he couldn't understand that. He couldn't understand that he's really pushing people away. Because if I can't do anything for you and you only do things for me, it's going to cause some stress, right? It's going to cause some strain in the relationship. So I had to help him understand that you must let us say thank you, right? And not just through words, but through actions as well, right? And you had one more. You had the hypervigilant,
Yeah.
right? So what do you think that one means? And this one's a little misleading from the title, but what do you think hypervigilant?
Yeah, that one I'm not really sure what that means.
Yeah, I don't know what it means.
I
either.
think, well, maybe when you're like trying to achieve something, you're kind of like super hyper focused. I don't know if that's really what that
Yeah,
means.
that sounds more like a hyperachiever, but hyper vigilant. So to be vigilant just means to really be on top, aware, hardworking, and whatnot. But hyper vigilant, these are people who have a trait of always worrying about what could go wrong and then doing everything they can to prevent that from going wrong. So they worry a lot. For example, during the time here, a lot of people are worried about getting COVID. So they'll do everything they can to avoid getting COVID. A lot of people are worried about what happens if the border doesn't open up. So they're spending all this time worrying about things that may never happen. So we call people who have this saboteur in them, they worry a lot about things, a lot of anxiety, and they try to do things to avoid. Now, a lot of hypervigilant people are very successful because they're doing everything they can to avoid things going wrong, which means they're trying to make things go right. But again, it's coming from a place of fear and nervousness, not from a place of abundance. So do you have any hypervigilance in you?
That one is a little bit hard. I don't know.
So, okay. So yeah, so hypervigilant. So before gypC, I explained a little bit of some of the characteristics of hypervigilant. Does any of that sound familiar to you?
I'm just trying to think here. Yeah, that one is a little bit hard to identify. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, and let me say that if you were to take the assessment, next week, you may see a different result. Sometimes the assessment is based on what we're going through at that moment. So take it with a grain of salt, but they're usually, it's interesting, they're usually pretty accurate, especially if you ask your friends and family what they think. Because sometimes we don't want to see certain things, right? But our friends and family can say, yep, I see that, right?
Yeah, I've taken a few of these different types of assessments, and it's always hard for me to answer the question because it depends on the situation, or sometimes you change, you're constantly morphing, and your personality type kind of changes a little bit. So it's always hard for me to answer those questions.
Yeah, one thing we tell our clients, take the assessment every 6 or 7 weeks, because if we're helping you, right, you should see a change in how powerful those saboteurs are at influencing you, right? The whole thing is to reduce the impact of these 9 saboteurs have in our life. So it takes time to do that, but that's one of the main goals of positive intelligence and developing your mental fitness.
So is that the goal? Like when you're taking that test, everything should be, the percentages on the progress bar should be pretty low on all of them. Is that what the goal is?
Yeah, well, I think the main goal is to understand which saboteurs are dominating you the most. Because even if you're able to reduce your hypervigilant, able to reduce your pleaser, able to reduce your what was the other one? Your
First one was
Stickler.
stickler. Yeah, that was
able to reduce those, other ones will take their place, right? So because it's an assessment, there's always going to be a ranking, right? So it's never going to read 0, 0, 0 because you're answering questions. So it's always going to identify something. But the key is to identify which are the main saboteurs that are impacting you and then work on those. And one of the things is, for example, if you know you have a stickler in you, and I don't say you're a stickler because you're not a stickler, but you may have a stickler in you, right? So now that you're aware of that, you're mindful of that, the next time you're doing something that's stickler-ish, you'll say, oh, I'm doing it again, right? And perhaps you'll say, let me not take the same action, or let me do something different. So the first part is being mindful you're doing it again, and then changing your behavior. And I'll give you another example. When I used to travel during rush hour every day. And in the mornings, when I leave my front door, my goal is to get to my desk as soon as possible. So in the street, I'm walking pretty aggressively in the street. I get to the subway. When the subway gets to my stop and the door opens, I'm walking out pretty aggressively. I'm walking fast. I turn, go to escalator, and escalator, there's 2 rows, right? One on the right, what you do? You stop. On the left, you walk up.
Yeah.
No matter what, there's always somebody who on the left stops also. And it just stops everything. And it would just get me so incensed. I just be, oh my, and I would just get so upset about that because that was me being triggered. And I would judge them. I would say, oh, you're so stupid that you don't know the etiquette. You say, if you want to stand, go to the right. If you want to walk, go on the left. You stupid this, that. Me judging them, right? So I had to learn how to tame my judge. And not to tame my judge, but to not also be triggered. So like a pet peeve, right? I started saying, when I turn this corner, and I regardless of whether or not somebody is walking or stopping, I'm not going to change my mindset. Because when I got upset, I would be upset for the next 30 minutes, right? Little thing like that, right?
Yeah.
So I had to first understand my saboteur is a judge and I'm judging other people. So being able to recognize when you're doing it again is the first step in stopping the action you take when you are being triggered, right? Because we all get triggered. The question is, what do we do when we get triggered?
So is there a different exercise that you can do to kind of help with each category?
Yeah. Well, and it's really the same sort of exercise. We call these doing PQ reps. So PQ stands for positive intelligence, right? It's a positive quotient. So your quotient being positive versus negative, you want to have a very high PQ number, meaning you're able to maintain your positivity going through more of life ups and downs. So one of the things we do is to do a PQ rep. And I'll walk you guys through it now, right? And this is something that I would say works for some people, not for everybody. It's sort of like a meditation, but it helps you to stop your busy mind and just calm down, right? So, well, let's do one. So if you guys don't mind, can you close your eyes? Can you close your eyes for a moment? Sit straight in your chair, have your feet flat, and really have your mind and body at ease. So take a deep breath in, a breath out, a breath in again, a breath out. And as you return to a normal breathing pattern, feel the air as it comes through your nose. Is the air warm? Is it cold? Really feel the temperature. Feel the air as it's going out of your nose. Feel it as it's hitting your skin under your nose. Is it warm? Is it cold? Now take your hands and rub your thumb against your forefinger, and do it such that you feel your fingerprints. You feel the ridges in your fingers. Now take one hand and rub the palm of your other hand. And as you're doing that, feel the ridges Feel the fingers. Feel the ups, the downs. Feel everything. Now take your other hand and rub your palm with such delicacy that again, you're feeling the ridges. Now, feel your feet, feel your toes. And if you need to, wiggle your toes so you can feel your toes. Wiggle your toes. And start to move up your body. Find a way to energize and feel your calves, your thighs, your hips. Feel your midsection. As you're breathing, feel your stomach and your chest rising and lowering. Feel your shoulders. Are they tense? Are they loose? Now, as you work your way up your body, feel your jaw. Is it clenched? Is it loose? So take a few more seconds. Focus on your breathing. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Okay, so that's an example of a PQ rep. And you can do that for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Now, the purpose of this, right? The purpose of this is to disrupt your day, right? Meaning, as you go through your day, and we say we're too busy to do A, B, and C, we want you to take a moment to just center yourself and calm everything down, right? Because once you calm everything down, you're more mindful of what you're experiencing. One of the worst times to make a decision is when you're nervous, you're scared, you're mad, you're frustrated. So by disrupting your normal day and making sure you can be calm, it helps you make decisions for the next hour or so, right? Because we want to make sure that we're not in a place that's going to allow us to make errors in judgment, right? So you may say, well, Colin, this little meditation thing, I don't feel any difference. You don't know that yet, right? The question is, over the next hour or so, are you more calm in making decisions? And just going back to your question, how does this help me to defeat my saboteurs? Well, first of all, you must be mindful that you're being saboteur, right? And then if you're of calm of mind, you're able to take a different action. Our saboteurs sit on our shoulders and tell us lies, right? I must do this to get their affection. I must do this because I'm worried. I must be a stickler and do this, right? Always telling you lies. You're not smart enough. You're never going to get this done. So if you're able to calm your mindset, when your saboteur talks to you, you can say, oh, I'm doing it again. Let me take a different action. Because the neural pathways in our brain is when we're triggered, we typically do the same thing, right? We have habits, we do the same thing. So how can you now change that pattern? That comes from first being mindful of it and saying, you know what, I'm going to do something different, take a different action.
I'd like to touch a little bit back on how to, kind of keep a strong mental fitness during like the lockdown situation that you're dealing with, where you can see, it's a little, people are starting to get irritated. Can you highlight us a little bit on that?
Yeah. So it's now luckily I've been at this for a while, right? So I can say that I'm very good at, I'm better at looking at every situation and saying, how can this be a gift? So back on March 7th, that's when we first had some restrictions put on us. And I remember telling my wife, I said, wow, okay, things are going to be different for a while. I want to now practice my muscles, my new muscles of not letting anything get me upset during this time. So I went into this saying to myself, this is practice for me to be in that sage mindset where no matter what the government says we have to go through, no matter what restrictions we have, I'm going to be okay. We're going to be fine. So for us, it hasn't been so bad because I'm using this as a challenge. But for so many people, it's very, very different. And part of what people are going through now is the uncertainty that comes each and every day. Must I take a test today? Is it an in-home test? Is it an outdoor test? If it's an outdoor test, am I putting myself at risk by being close to people? Because if you've been on lockdown for 2 weeks, why is anybody testing positive anymore, right? Unless something is coming in, right? So I'm putting myself at risk. So one of the things that I talk to our clients about now is how to sort of stop asking yourself, well, stop saying, you know what, I fear uncertainty. You know, I don't, you know, the fact that I don't know what's going to happen gets me nervous. I said, what if you told yourself that no matter what happens, you'll be okay, right? And it's a very different mindset because if you're fearing uncertainty, that means you're watching social media, you're looking to see what's going to happen next, and you're going to react to it, as opposed to saying, no matter what happens, it's going to be okay. So I tell people what we're going through now, and in the US, it may be a little different, but what we're going through now, this is just a chapter in our lives called COVID, right? Now, I'll admit it is a big ass chapter, okay? It is not a 10-page chapter. It is a very long chapter, but it will be over. And when you look back, right? When you look back at this COVID time, what did you experience and achieve? And a lot of people can feel that because they're saying to themselves, right now, I'm feeling anxious, frustrated, angry at some of the regulations. But if you think back, what experiences do you want to have? And people can really understand that. And that helps them to say, you know what, I do want to develop my mental fitness. And I do want to ask myself, what is the gift of this time period? Because people are spending more time with their families, right? People's diets have gotten better. People can't get cigarettes, right? People can't get that much alcohol. So people are really experiencing a much more healthier lifestyle now. Granted, they can't go out, but there are several gifts that people don't realize they're getting at this time, right? So helping them realize that and say, how can you really build up your mental fitness? Don't try to deal with the biggest challenges you have right now, but start small with some things while you have the time, quite frankly. So people are dealing with in different ways, but for the most part, I think people, you know, there's different experiences, right? Different phases. The first week is a little nervous. You get frustrated. By the third week, you get pissed off, you get upset. By the fourth and fifth week, you accept it, right? So people go through different emotions during this time. And I think right now, people are getting tired of it, but people are accepting the situation more and now trying to say, what can I gain during this time?
Okay. Do you know the status like for here? Because, you know, they've kind of basically opened up. Most people stop requiring, you know, we just started going back to the gym.
Okay. Yeah.
And
yeah.
As far as that's, you know, with them opening that back up and dropping, at least in LA County, but a lot of the US has basically kind of been close to trying to be back to normal.
Yeah, and I do see that because I watch TV, I watch a basketball game, right? And my wife will go, dude, no, you didn't have masks on. There's so many people there. I'm like, honey, the COVID in the US now is open. And as the world is doing, right? They're just saying, let's open back up. I don't even think they're reporting daily numbers anymore, right?
I'm not sure. We don't really watch the news like that either, but I haven't heard anything.
Yeah. So things open back up. And I think, you know, I have no idea whether it's a good or bad because I don't live there. I just know here, China does have a zero tolerance policy, right? Which means that, for example, right now, I think we will be able to leave our compound next week. But if we have one positive test, add 14 days, right? And one positive test out of, I want to say, probably 5,000 people who live here. So it's very much, we're in our COVID period. But here in China, besides the first month of 2020, we haven't really had any restrictions, right? So I think it's just our turn to go through this.
Is it just in Shanghai or all the other cities are also going through this.
They're going through it now. Beijing is in the earth. So Beijing, Beijing had cases before, but never at this level. So now in Beijing, they stopped all of the in-person dining. So you couldn't go to a restaurant. All the public places were closed. I think now you can still get deliveries, and they haven't went to a lockdown, but they are trending toward going to a lockdown. And cities don't want to do a lockdown. So lockdown means you can't leave your house, you can't leave your building, right? So, but I think they're going to be trending toward that lockdown primarily because of that zero tolerance policy, right? Which means that if one person has it, everything's locked down in that area.
Okay.
Did you feel like, I know you said you were mostly fine, but that level of isolation, like not leaving your building, for me, that's pretty insane.
Because some
A
people have
level of
someone and some people have
isolation.
no one.
Yeah,
So-
but
Right,
just
right.
that level of isolation, did you feel like, I'm sure a lot of people are having a hard time with dealing with that?
Yeah, so let me just share with you really quick. One thing that I'm very proud of what we've done here in Shanghai. So in 2020, when it wasn't COVID back then, it was coronavirus, first hit here in China. A lot of my clients said, Colin, I'm so nervous about this thing called coronavirus, I can't go through regular coaching. So myself and a handful of coaches decided, let's get together and do what we call COVID coaching, helping people who are going through COVID and having a tough time. Let's give them free coaching. So we did that in 2020, but 2020 was different because COVID was on TV. So we're in Shanghai and we're watching COVID hit the US. We're watching people really be put in a change of lifestyle. We're watching our loved ones go through something, and we're trying to manage here. But now in 2022, you get a knock on the door, who is it? COVID, right? COVID is here now, and people are dealing with that totally different. So again, myself and about 12 other coaches came together to offer free coaching during this time. And we just hit our 103 hours of giving free volunteer coaching, right? So it's been a tremendous success. And during that, we've been coaching people who are going through so many different experiences. As he mentioned, there are people who are with their families and they're going through a tough time because their families aren't used to being together all the time. Then other extreme, people who are by themselves and they're going through a tough time because they literally have no real-time interaction, and Zoom, social media doesn't fill that gap. So for those folks, they're feeling extremely lonely. And it's been almost 2 months for some people where they have not been able to go out and go to a restaurant with their friends and interact. So people are going through a whole wealth of different emotions, from being alone, from being around family a little bit too much, for also saying, you know what, I can't get food. I can't get food on time. I'm worried about starving. And in those cases, luckily, they found ways, right? But for example, a lot of ordering the food the group buying is done using a Chinese application. If you don't speak Chinese or can't read Chinese text, you're going to have a very tough time, right? So people are going through a lot of different experiences during this time. And some foreigners are saying, maybe it's time to leave China, because if this is how they're going to manage this, I'm feeling like I don't want to be here anymore. And one thing I tell them, I say, well, if you want to leave, that's definitely your choice. And I say, before we had these restrictions, did you think about leaving? And they say, no, they didn't. And I tell them, I ask them, when you're going through something painful, is that the best time to make decisions about what's paining you, right? So if you're thinking about leaving China and you never thought about it before, while you're going through this tough time might not be the best time to think about that. Maybe wait until things open back up and ask yourself that question again, because right now you're severely biased by what you're going through on a daily basis.
Yeah, I understand.
That's interesting.
Yeah. It's a good way to look at it as well, making decisions.
Yeah, because I often ask myself, because I've seen a few expats that are living in China, and I'm like, why are they there? But like you said, it's they have their own reasons, and that's probably not the right time to make.
Yeah. Well, I'll say one thing that most expats who I know here, they love living in China. And if you think about it, for if you ask a Chinese citizen their experience living here in China and an expat, it's vastly different, right? As a foreigner, we don't worry about anything political, right? In the US, politics, especially a few years ago, politics was front page every day, right? If you wear a mask, you're on this side. If you don't wear a mask, you're on this side, right? So everything was sort of tied into politics. Also, foreigners, people leave us alone. Look, I've never had any issues with any policeman here, right? The policemen don't even carry guns, right? And I'm in the US, quite frankly, I see a police car, I get tight, right? No matter what I'm doing, I get tight, right? So for a lot of foreigners here, it's just very, very peaceful. And the crime rate here is very, very low, right? So I think for a lot of people, it's peaceful, the cost of living is low, and you don't have to really worry about anything political. So some people do enjoy time here. Some folks miss little things like Taco Bell. You miss things like that.
I was gonna ask, like, how has your experience been, like as an African American living in China? Have you had any issues, or how's your experience?
Yeah, I think everybody Black here has had some sort of experience, and it varies depending upon what city you're in. I'm in Shanghai. Shanghai has what, 20 million people. It's a very modern city. But if I go to it's a tier 1 city. If I go to a tier 2 city that's more rural, more country, I'll get looked at a lot more. If I go to a tier 3 city, I might be the first Black person they've seen face to face, right? So they're going to look a lot more. And they still do believe that for my first few years here, you had to get used to being looked at, being stared at. You had to get used to people asking you, are you from Africa? Because if you think about China, you'll never see a taxi driver, bus driver, policeman who's not Chinese.
Right.
Okay. Because everybody here to be China is Chinese, right? So the concept of country folk is that. So when I think about Africa, Africa is all Black. When I think about the United States of America, it's all white, right? So they still think that if you're Black, you came from Africa. If you're Chinese, you came. For example, in the US, if somebody Chinese and say, where you're from, I'm from LA. Where are you really from? Right? Right? Because we know that there's only a few generations have been there. So for a lot of people here, they still think, so you may get asked if you're African, and the question doesn't bother you because we're all proud Africans, right? But it bothers you because they can't understand that you are from the United States, right? That part bothers you. But for the most part, I haven't had a lot of negative experiences. Early on, I did not know how to deal with things. Like somebody, old man may come up to me and touch my skin, right? And I would get very upset. But now I realize he's not doing it because he's trying to be evil. He's just curious. He's just curious, right? So I've been able to just, give people the benefit of the doubt. Now, in some parts of China, they treat Black people very poorly. Okay, I'm not gonna lie about that. Very, very poorly. But luckily here in Shanghai, it's a little more modern. And in some jobs, if you're Black, you're not gonna get them. If you're Indian, you're not gonna get them, right? They want Caucasian in certain jobs. Yeah. But we're off topic, right? We're off topic.
Well, it's a part of, I guess, the whole.
It is, because for a lot of people, it really messes with their mindset.
And it's educational though as well. Yeah. It's still educational for you to have some type of enlightenment when traveling in different places.
Yeah, I agree. And I know for a lot of Black clients I have, one of their major issues is how they get treated here. And it's not that they get treated badly, they get treated differently, right? And part of it is, treat me the same way you're going to treat other foreigners, whether they be French, German, whatnot. Treat me the same way. You'll see Chinese folks trying to act different when they're around some of their Black friends, trying to be more, you know, hey bro, what to see from TV. And it's not that it's being treated the wrong way, but treat us the same way. So a lot of people do have it does mess with the mindset a lot here as well.
But before we get ready to close out, we definitely appreciate having you back again and just educating us on as far as
Positive intelligence.
positive intelligence.
We
That's
went
what I was
somewhere.
looking for. Yeah, it's usually
let me
note up there, but yeah, positive intelligence is what I was reaching for. Yeah.
Yeah. And let me add this, right? If any of your listeners want to take the assessment, right? It's very easy. They can go to positiveintelligence.com, positiveintelligence.com/saboteurs. And they can take the assessment. And once they take the assessment, they can shoot me an email or go to my website, and I'll talk them through what the results say.
Okay. And what's the website where they can go? And we'll also have the links as well.
Yeah, positiveintelligence.com/saboteur. If you don't know how to spell saboteur, look it up. It took me a while to learn how to spell it. SABOTEURS, right? Positiveintelligence.com/saboteurs. Then they can go to my website, oligye.com, and to shoot me an email, shoot me a note, and I'll walk them through how to interpret that assessment. That assessment is very, very powerful. It only takes about, I think, less than 5 minutes. It's not long at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
And do you offer, you said you offer personal coaching as well? Is that on your website?
Absolutely. So on the website, they'll see the different services. We have coaching, we have training, but the majority of what I do is one-on-one coaching. And they can find information on the website of how to sign up for a free 1 hour coaching call.
Okay. Well, thank you again, Colin.
And for the listeners, you can find the podcast at americangypsy.com. We have all the episode audio, videos, guest information, as well as links to our merch at luamlee.com.
And we also have some music at Classic Carpenter on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, well, the same thing, YouTube and Tidal, and that's KLACCIKCARPENTA. Thank you again to our listeners, our viewers. Thank you to our donators and our supporters, subscribers, followers, all of the above. Consistent self-improvement and peace.
All right. Thank you, guys.